welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. Today, we're going to make our 41 9N Industrial into a usable machine. Or we hope we're going to. Anyway, let's get into it. So back when we got this thing, we got it running and moved it around a little bit, and that was about the extent of it. So what we're going to do today, we need this thing to be operational for our lumberjacking project out the back. So let's have a go at it and see what it needs to be turned into an actual functional operational tractor. So I'd like to get this guy running. I did have this one running before off a temporary fuel supply. I'm going to have to refamiliarize myself with it, have a look inside the fuel tank, see if it's bad. I also got to just have a fast look, check the fluids, see if there's coolant, oil, hydraulic oil in it. We're not going to go crazy restoring this or anything. It literally just has to start and run so that we can use it to move a trailer around. So we'll just stick a ball on the drawbar here and we'll use this thing to move a trailer around. I looked down in the tank with a light and it doesn't really look all that bad. So that's good. We're going to go ahead and put a new sediment bowl on it, a sediment bulb, like the whole thing. And then I'm also going to see what this fuel line, if I can blow air through it freely, we'll reuse this fuel line. If not, we'll have to find one. There's probably one kicking around here somewhere. That's quite an interesting looking arrangement. I would assume that this does not have the filter elbow in it anymore. Oh man, these old tractors. They've all got a story, don't they? So we got this guy out. I don't know what it even belongs to. It's not the right one for this. Here's one. It's sort of the right one, but they're for Fords and Ferguson. So basically, if you're putting it in a Ford, you put the plug here. If you're putting it in a Ferguson, you put the plug there. Anyway, we're putting it in a Ford, so we're going to have to move the plug from this port to that port, and then we can put it in. We can see here, this is not the right inlet fitting for the carburetor, so we'll have to see if we've got one of them kicking around. Well, I've got this thing opened up. We're going to drop the carburetor down. We'll put it in the vise, pop the lid off it, and make sure it's clean inside. Alrighty, first checks. Throttle's nice and free. It's not even too wore out. The choke works, and it's got the little flapper and the spring there in the plate are still there. That's awesome. So we'll go ahead and pop this cover off. What we're going to do is we're going to see how many turns out the power screw is. So you can see where that little nubbin is. Let's see what we got here. There's one turn. About 1.5. That's pretty usual because we have to take this out to get that. So we'll just remember that was 1.5 turns out. And now we'll take these 4 screws out and pop the lid off and see what we see. Well, let's see what happens here. I think the gasket came out in one piece. Yes! Oh, all right. One float's got a bit of a dent in it, and the float's kind of low. But anyway, we'll work on that after. Let's look down in here. There's some stinky old gas in it, but like I can see the bottom of it. It doesn't look too bad at all. So we'll drain that gas out of there. I'll give it a good blowout and we'll put it back together and it should be okay. And anytime we open up one of these Marvel carburetors around here, we always take this plug out of the bottom of the fuel bowl and replace it with a petcock. Just makes it a lot easier to drain your carburetor. Now we can set the carburetor float. I can tell by looking at it, these ones were a little low. And what you want is to be able to stick a quarter inch drill bit under the end of the float there. You can see, well, we're quite a bit low. So you just grab it back here behind the float with a pair of pliers, because you don't want to put any undue pressure on the actual needle valve. And just a little touch. That's good. And we'll do the same on this side. Good. Good. Perfect. Okay, we can put this thing back together. You want to have a look at the needle? Maybe we should while we're in here. Yeah, look at that. It's got a Viton needle in it. That's good. Perfect. I mean, I did have this thing running before when we first got it. So, couldn't have been that bad, eh? All right, let's get this carburetor back together. Now I'll get these screws tightened up. And then, well, we're not out of the woods yet. We still have to find one of those inlet elbow / filter screens. I hope I got one around here somewhere. All right. Now you can put the power screw back in, and we'll just gently turn it in till it hits bottom, and then turn it back out 1.5, just like it was. There's our 1/2, and there's our 1. Well, I found one in my junk that's got, I think, the right thing in it, if we can get it out. Oh boy, that's been in there a long time. If we can get it out, we can see what it looks like. Oh, egad. It's all plugged with crud. Well, let's see if we can clean it up. Okay, now we can go ahead and get this thing back up there. The base gasket seemed okay, so we'll just let that be for now. Eventually this tractor is going to get blown into a million pieces and restored properly. But for now, we just need it to do some work for us. I blew out the fuel line. It's fine. There's no blockage or anything in that. It's all clean inside. So we put that back on. That's the fuel system buttoned up. Now we got to deal with the clutch. This thing here is bent. This arm should be kind of pointing that way a little bit. And what happens is when these things don't have a running board on them, people tend to stand, like literally stand on the clutch, and it will eventually start bending this thing back. And you can see that one's bent back. That's my theory anyway. And something interesting you'll see on these 9 ends. It has been said that you need 3 feet to operate one, right? Because it's got one brake pedal on that side and one brake pedal on this side. But what you'll see, Henry Ford thought of that. And this thing here, right? This is the pawl for the parking brake, right? You can see on there. Anyway, that's a whole other stuff. But what Henry did was, you can see how that crosses over. Well, that's designed in a way that when you push down the clutch, right? You push it down so far to release the clutch, and then if you push it further, it contacts that, and look what it does. It applies the brake on this side. Pretty neat. Oh, man, I had this thing moving. Here it comes, look at that. I usually need the torch to get these things out. This one's good. Uh-oh. It must have some wear in it. It's gotten stuck. There we go. Let's see, how bad is it? Whoops. Butterfingers. Oh, it's not bad at all. Somebody must have put a new one in it somewhere along the line. So what we got to do now is 2 things. We got to get the torch and pull this thing back straight. And then we got to get the torch and get this heated up back here and get this thing out, and we'll get this thread cleaned up so we can adjust the clutch when we're done. Now I got a pair of channel locks here to grab this thing with. Okay, let's see what happens. Well, that clutch arm cools off. We're going to get the stay bars off here and get them straightened out because they're both bent. We need them straight. It's also got this homemade drawbar lock on it, which is kind of neat. but they, I guess they didn't have the right length bolts, so they used these ones that are a little too long. I think we'll take that apart and get some proper length bolts. There's that all fixed up. I found for over here a little like a U-bolt, and I put it on with a couple of wing nuts, so that way it's a lot easier to get it off if you want that thing off, right? And the last thing I did was put a trailer ball on it because we're going to be using this thing to move trailer around. Now we got to get the clutch linkage set. So what we do, the fork is there. What we do is pull this back till the throw, you'll feel the throw bearing hit the pressure plate, and then we need this lift up there until the pedal is against its up stop, and you can see there we need to make the rod about 3/4 of an inch longer. Come on. There we go. Okay. Let's see now. We got the free play. Yeah, that's good. So there we got about 1/2 inch of free play. That's good. Now, we may have to make an adjustment here once we get this thing fired up and see if we haven't got enough travel to release the clutch. We may have to adjust that. But we also have to do something about this. I think I'm going to take it off and see if I could straighten it out in the press. If not, I think I've got another one in the shed, but we'll figure it out. Alrighty, let's get this thing in the press and see if we can straighten it up a little bit. It's pretty bad, but we've straightened a lot of stuff in this press. So we'll give her a try. Like I said, if worse comes to worse, I'm sure I've got one in the barn. But it's so much fun fixing the old one, right? There we go. You just work your way along it. It's really bent right at the back where the clevis is. That might be a little tricky to get straightened, but we'll try. We'll give her a shot here. Oh, there we go. Our pedal is fixed. So now all that's left is to see if we could get this thing to come to life. So I put a couple of gallons of gas in it. Let's open this up. Well, so far so good, eh? Now eventually it'll come up to this level here where the outlet line is, and then it'll start running down and filling up the carburetor, and we can go to the other side and see if there's anything going on the floor. Plus we got to make sure this thing stays dry. Oh. Well, let's see if it'll start. We've got the right one. Okay. Well, let's see here. We're in neutral. Give it some throttle. Oh, she almost went. Now, like I was telling you, it looks like we haven't got enough I could not get this thing to go into gear. So what I've done is I loosened this thing right off, and now we can push the clutch pedal a lot further. So we'll try that now. And if we still can't get the thing to go into gear, we've likely got the clutch disc stuck to the flywheel, which happens to these things when they sit and sit and sit. And okay, let's try it now. Try it now, we say in Claremont. I don't know why this won't open. I have no idea why that won't open. Anyway, one dilemma at a time. Okay. Let's see what happens now. I got the clutch all the way down, and I still can't get this thing in gear. So try as I may, this thing just does not have good enough brakes to be able to bust the clutch free. I just can't get them to overcome the engine, even idling around. So we're going to go ahead and split it. It doesn't take long to split these things. And probably while we're in there doing that, we can find a couple more things to fix, you know? Well, here's the first surprise. They've soldered this neck onto here in situ. The neck is bigger than the hole in the hood, so we can't get this off. So we're going to get the propane torch and desolder this so we can get the hood off. Funny. So with the hood off, we can see some interesting stuff here. It's got an 8N air cleaner. There was nothing wrong with the top of the rad, except I guess they probably couldn't come up with the proper rad cap. The early 9Ns used a different rad cap than the later ones. So they soldered that thing on there. I don't know why this piece of inner tube is on there, but the other problem I can see here is the top of the rad is crunched down. So we might have to see if we can get that pulled back up. But anyway, minor detail. So what we're going to do now is I could split this without really taking a lot apart, but there's some other stuff I'd like to do while I'm in here. So we're going to go ahead and drain the cooling system and just start taking a few things apart. Hard to drain this thing. The petcock in the bottom of the radiator, the bung that's soldered into the rad is spinning. We'll have to fix that once we get this thing out of here. And the one on the engine block, it's all the way open, but there's nothing coming out of it, so it's plugged. So anyway, I've loosened off the bottom rad hose, and we're trying to drain it that way. That'll get some of it anyway. And then once it's down to that level, we'll completely remove the petcock from the engine block and get the rest of it out that way. Is there anything better when we're working on the tractor than Captain Pike and the Telosians? All right, part 2 of the menagerie. It's Star Trek night on CTV Sci-Fi. Well, there's what was in the air cleaner. Gross.
What are you guys doing? Guys?
So, well, here we go. I'm taking it apart, so I'm going to go ahead and do a little work to it, and maybe we'll make it, get it into condition where it can last a little longer before we actually have to, restore it. So what we're going to do is, I hate this stuff. I ordered a set of wires for it. We'll service it up. I have to put new antifreeze in it because the stuff that came out of it was like mud. The hoses were all rotted. The thermostat was stuck, so we'll change all that. And I also want to add the governor oil line. We'll do that while we're at it. And just kind of clean up a few little things. Clean up the wiring. It's all wired with house wire, It's terrible. So we'll start from scratch. All right, we got this side of her opened up. I figure we'll just kind of reseal everything. The gaskets are cheap enough. And I wanted to have a look inside here to see what we've got. So we've got the later style valve gear with the one-piece guides. That's good. We can also see that it has never been updated to adjustable tappets. So in order to set the valve clearances on this, it's got to be done as part of a valve job, right? Because you adjust the valve clearance by grinding the end of the valve stem. We're not going to do that. So it is what it is. We can also see here that over time, the battery acid leaking has eaten right through the top of this, and we can actually see inside the steering box. Unbelievable. We'll make a little patch or something to go over top of that. Now we're starting to take the front end apart. I got the drag links knocked off, and here's a problem you'll see. Pretty common on these old ones. They use a what do you call that? A wedge bolt to tighten the steering arm onto the spindle, and you can see here over time they get loose and they don't grab anymore. The one on this side is okay still. That's fine. So we'll see if we can get this thing off and see what can be done about fixing it. Well, we got the front axle and everything off. It came off. Actually, all came apart pretty nicely. Even the axle pin came out relatively easily. No heat, no torch. Had to air chisel a couple of bolts out, but it was all good. Now we've got the oil coming out of it, and as usual, the screen is missing from the plug, so we'll have to replace that when we put it back together. But that's pretty common. And here's our clutch. You can see here there's been some monkey business going on there. There's a lot of dust. I'm not sure what all has been going on inside there. So we're going to zip the bolts out, get the pressure plate off, and see if the disc is at all stuck to the pressure plate or the flywheel. Okay, here we go. Let's see what we see here. Okay. Yeah, and there we are. The clutch disc is fused to the flywheel. Well, that will cause a problem, won't it? So we'll see if we can get a scraper or something. And that thing, you can see that clutch is just fried right down to the rivets. So we also need a clutch. Let's see here, what do we got? It hasn't messed up the pressure plate too badly. We'll be able to clean that up. Let's get this off of here and see what the flywheel looks like. There. Can you imagine that? Look at that. Yeah. So I'll have to get that cleaned up. You can see that it's like literally stuck there. So we'll get this all cleaned up, put a new clutch disc in it, and we should be okay. Oh, we could check the pilot bearing while we're in here. Perfect. There's no need to change that. Okay. Let me go find a clutch. Here's a couple of good used clutch discs I found in the barn. I need one for this, and I need one for that one over there. So we're all set. And these are the nice dampened ones. These ones have nice take-up, as opposed to the... I've got a couple of really cheap Econo solid ones. And man, you got to be pretty light in the clutch pedal to avoid jerky starts on those. Hi, Cooper. We used our clutch alignment tool here to hang the disc in there. And then we bolted the pressure plate down over top of it and torqued the bolts to 25 foot-pounds. So that's great. We're all set. We can go ahead now and put the engine back on the transmission. Okay, let's go. Let's get this thing on there. This crane is an unwieldy thing. It's got casters on all four corners. It's handy when you need it like that, but it has its moments, I'll tell you. Anyway, we're good. A lot of guys, if they're going to store these tractors for a while, they'll block the clutch pedal down so that we don't have this problem. Because it is quite common for them to stick. Real help. Sometimes what helps, if you can get a long bolt. I don't know if I got it in long enough. You don't want to pull it in with these bolts, but it just helps kind of keep it lined up while you jiggle it. There. Now it's got it lined up nicely. All right. Now we're starting it in here. Once we get it in that far, you can be pretty sure that it's started down them splines. Now we're probably trying to get the pilot. There we go. Okay, we got it. See, just all of a sudden, kaplunk, it goes in. There we go. There we go. All right, we're good. So I'll go around now and get the bolts in and get them tightened up, and we're all set. And look at that. All back together. We got all the bolts in around the bell housing. I found one that was too long. It was the wrong bolt, so I went in my my special stash of Ford tractor bolts and got one of the right ones. All good. Now we're going to go ahead and get the axle support on, and we can get the axle beam and the radius rods back together. And, well, it'll start looking like a tractor again. The axle pin and the bushing weren't really all that bad. So we just put them back. At some point in the future, they could be changed. But for now, they're serviceable. We'll leave them be. On 2 ends and 8 ends, you're familiar with the teardrop piece on the front of the axle pin with the bolt in there like that. On these 9 ends, it's held with this. You can see that pointed grub screw, and there's a tapered hole in the top of it, and that's what holds the axle pin in on these guys. So you turn this in. That's a jam nut. You turn this in the bolt till it's tight, and then you jam the jam nut down. I got to go over to the vise and free this up because right now it's kind of stuck. Okay, we got the steering arm off the spindle. Here's the clevis or the cinch bolt, whatever you want to call it, the wedge bolt. What I did notice was that that's the correct way with the nut on the front, and on this side, the nut was on the back. I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but we're going to put this thing back on and put the wedge bolt the right way and see if we can get it tightened up so that it actually does something. The problem with these things is as they wear out, you tighten and tighten and tighten until you run out of threads and you can't tighten it anymore. But maybe if we flip it around, that might work. Otherwise, we could also stick a piece of shim stock in there to take up a little space, and that could work too. All right, well, that seems to have tightened it up. If it loosens up again, we'll come up with a new plan. But for now, we're good. Now what we got to do is get the front end somewhat set on this thing. Right now it's out a mile. So we've got the steering box centered, and by that we mean, you can see here the ball joint on the drag link end is kind of right above the center of the foot peg on both sides. So once we got that accomplished, we know the steering box is centered, and we can look, and this thing is towed away in. I actually measured it just roughly with a tape measure. It's towed in about 3 inches, with this side being worse. So what we got to do is get these clamps undone and see if we can turn these tie rods out and get this thing back going straight. And that looks like it's been together for a long time, don't it? So these didn't put up much of a fight at all. I forget it's not a car and it hasn't been out in the salt. These tractors get rusty, but there's no salt on them. They just don't seize up like stuff on cars does. I just loosened that bolt and just turned the tie rod. Unbelievable, both sides. So anyway, what I've done now, I've got it pretty good. It's towed in about 1/4 of an inch, which is just fine, because once you start driving, you can see all that play gets taken up, and that'll put us in a good place. Maybe towed out just a hair, but that's okay. It's a heck of a lot better than how it was. So I've got some good used rubbers to put on these, and we can put these back together. I got to knock the broken cotter pins out of here, and we can put this all back together and be groovy. There's that all buttoned up. Last thing I did was put new grease fittings in the tie rod ends. Those are like the original ones from 1941. And it's unbelievable how this stuff lasts if it's been looked after. I mean, some point in its life, this thing was looked after properly. It was greased and everything. And then it sat, right? But anyway, the front end's all good now, and it's nice. It's like there's hardly any play in it. Look at that. I mean, you just move the steering wheel and you can see everything moving. That's really good. This should be a nice driving little tractor. All right, that's going to do it for this one. In the next one, we're going to put a bunch more stuff together, do a little more explaining. And then after that, we're going to do a step-by-step 12-volt wiring on a 9N. Like, make your own. We're not buying no harnesses. We're making it. That should be fun. I did it on an 8N once, and that's a very popular video. People seem to like that. So we'll do a 9N. 2N similar, right? Anyway, and I'd also like to mention, thank you very much, Claremont Nation. We have reached 6,000 subscribers. That's amazing. I just think it's great that all you folks are interested enough in a guy messing around with junk in his garage to hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much. The channel's growing just, slowly and steadily over time. It's great. Anyway, I'd like to thank you as always for tuning in and continuing to support us. I hope you'll come back and see us again next time. And until then, I'm Kevin saying so long from the Claremont Classic Garage.